my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
Good afternoon and welcome to Dublin City FM. You're listening to LGBTQlife with myself, Mick FitzGerald, and today we've got a very special programme for you. I know I say this most weeks, but this time, believe me, we really do have a special programme because it's that time of the year again. It's seen and heard, and we've got one of the designated stars of this year's festival, Avoca Reaction.
Hello, how are you, Mick?
Well, I'm great. Now, we'll start off with the schmoozing.
Oh, hello, yeah. We'll rub elbows.
We will. This is a small world, and I first met yourself about 6 months ago, maybe a bit longer, I'd seen and heard, where you were talking about style with the awesome Quiva Connolly.
Yeah.
How did you get to meet Quiva? Was that through Seen and Heard?
No, I met Quiva actually. I was working on The Fringe in 2016. I was working on a show called Coast with Red Bar Productions. I was assistant director, but I was essentially assistant producer. And I had a chat with a wonderful actor named Anna Shields McNamee, and I said that I was actually getting a bit of a buzz off the producing. She said, well, you need to meet one Miss Quiva Connolly.
Indeed.
And Quiva happened to be out the next night in Garage Bar. I remember I looked across the room and we hadn't met each other before, and I said, I need to talk to you, and she just looked back at me and goes, I know. So she sat me down and we had a little chat about the new course that she was putting on for producers, along with Cliona Dukes in Smock Alley, two absolutely formidable, amazing producers. So they ran a course called Generator back in 2016. I was one of the first participants in that, and that's how I got to know Quiva. I became one of her little proteges, her baby ducklings.
Now, when I first encountered yourself, it was at a talk about style, and anybody who will see the video will know that style is very significant to yourself. How important is it?
I think it's very important. It's for me, it's less about style, because I think style and fashion are sort of a discipline that you have to have a background knowledge in. Whereas I just follow my instincts. I find nice pieces that I like, and I kind of pair them up in whatever way they go together. So it's a very intuitive process. It's not I don't have a background in fashion, I don't have a background in design, but I just know what I like to wear, and I try to follow that voice. I try to let that voice be as clear in my head as possible. Yeah. So I dress for myself, not anybody else.
Well, they say fashion is transient, but style is permanent. Is that an adage you would
I like that now.
to?
That's new one to me, but I like that. Yeah. Style is permanent. I think style is very personal as well, because it's all subjective. So what looks fantastic to me might look awful to you, and vice versa. Although today you're looking absolutely wonderful, you say.
Well, what we're going to say is that I would suggest, at the risk of being modest, we are probably the most stylish couple on Irish radio at this very moment, and the video will confirm.
I would imagine. Marion Finucane is quaking in her boots. She is.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think we're going to have much competition from Sean O'Rourke or dare I say it, the sometimes very stylish Miriam O'Callaghan.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we can really blow Ryan Tubridy out of the water.
Absolutely, and all those news talk boys as well.
I don't know if you recall yourself, because I was one of the questions I asked at the time was, is style interchangeable? And I made yourself and Christoph change hats.
So
you ended up with Christoph's baseball cap,
and I had a shiny LeMay baseball cap.
Yours was very glitzy, wasn't it?
Very glamorous. But no, style is completely interchangeable. I mean, you and I imagine you and I could swap outfits now, and we'd both still be as stylish as each other.
I think so. I think
so.
Yeah. And not only that, I also suspect it's a bit magnetic in the sense that the people we hang around with, but mutually know, they're all very stylish people, aren't they?
They're all very stylish and interesting people who are very good at marching to the beat of their own drum. You know, Quiva Connolly and Camille Ross, who were both at that panel talk, are two big stylistic influences for me. I kind of ended up looking like a bit of a cross between the two of them. Yeah.
Well, as I say, that's what this is what we like to promote on this program. Yes, it's substance is important, but I think if it was a choice between one or the other, we'd always go with style.
Well, I think style, you lead with your style. So I kind of say that I'd be comfortable getting up on stage at a drag show without all the garb on. But the way I think about it, it's a very thin veil that I put over myself so that people look at me and listen to me a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't have to fight as much for the attention. It sort of draws people in, and then once people are paying attention, then you can kind of spread your message.
Yeah. Now, dare I say it, since it was in the news over the weekend, I mean, you're an individual that feels very comfortable, as we say, in a dress, a frock, a skirt, or whatever.
Or trousers,
you ever
or
had
whatever.
any upskirting?
Upskirting? I haven't.
Yeah.
Thank God I haven't had any upskirting. Absolutely awful practice. No, I dare say that people wouldn't like to see what's under my skirt, potentially. I wouldn't rule it out, but I wouldn't welcome anything like that. And any upskirters up there, you may pack that in.
I never had. And then when I was about 40... mid-40s or thereabouts, we used to go to what was one of the seminal events in Dublin LGBTQ culture, which was the Gag Ball.
Oh, and run by Panty and Niall Sweeney.
And Tony Walsh and all of those. Yeah. And I had this kilt that I used to wear in the Scouts, and I could still get into it in those days. I'm not joking, it was saffron kilt.
Oh, beautiful.
And we went along one night, and I had my lovely saffron kilt. We were going up the stairs, and I noticed the first time around, a couple of people looking discreetly up they were up kilting. Up kilting.
Oh, my God.
By the time I was doing this at the third time, they weren't even being discreet about it. They were actually lifting my kilt.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, now, I presume that, they liked what they saw.
I'm sure they did. But that was back in the good old bad old days where you could get away with that.
Well, exactly.
Especially in a space like Gag. I mean, I've only heard the legends of Gag because I recently worked. I was an intern with This Is Pop Baby before I am Tony Walsh. So before that, I was aware that there had been an underground scene in, say, the 90s, early 2000s, but I had no idea what went on at Gag. Well, and I've heard of some of the performances that Panty gave that I'm sure you're familiar with.
Well, that was the first place I ever met Panty, and that was, as I say, Panty was the halftime act. It was usually, mainly it was DJs and gimps and whatever. But I still remember one night we were there, and this person came out, and nobody had an idea at this stage, other than a few close friends, who this person was, because Panty had just come back from Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So they put on a piece of what we would call performance art, and Panty painted they had a blank screen, and Panty did an abstract painting as a paint enema.
Yes, I've heard of this.
It was a great work of art.
I imagine so, and I'd say it sold for great money.
Well,
I hope that's still hanging somewhere. I hope that's in some gallery
somewhere.
Well,
all I can say is I have a strong suspicion Panty is still hanging somewhere. But
well, yeah. I mean, she's quite literally pulling things out of her arse. Quite literally. Yeah.
Panty. Now, I used to say to people, I know Panty and I know Rory. Two different, two very, very different entities in that sense of the word. Your, if you like, at this stage, your character name is Avoca Reaction.
Yeah.
And how did this name come about? Because I don't gather you've got a lot of connection back to that small town in Wicklow.
Absolutely not. Or the franchise of garden centres and cafes either. That's the other connection people tend to make.
The meeting of the waters, I think they call it.
I like that. That could be my tagline. Avoca Reaction, the meeting of the waters. Yeah. No, I planned my drag act for about 2 years before I pushed go, and it was just me walking around my hometown in Leakstep at night time, clearing my head and just coming up with ideas. And I had a massive list of drag names. So some of the original ones I had were Karen Tuchel, the highest queen in Ireland.
I like that one.
Emigration. There was a list of them. But then I was speaking to a friend one day about drag, and I said, that's what drag should do. Drag should evoke a reaction. I said, exactly. That's my name. Yeah, that's my name.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the ultimate in Dublin drag names would have to be Joanna Ride.
Oh, it's brilliant. There's some fantastic names.
But again, that wouldn't necessarily translate into with foreigners, even to people outside Dublin. But it's a fabulous name, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Yeah.
What was it? I mean, I see Avoca Reaction as a character. I mean, I know your name, and I'm not going to use that here, but Avoca Reaction, very much a character. Is that how you see it as well? How you see the genesis of the... in the sense that, do you see this going on for years, or do you see it like David Bowie is saying, that's it, Avoca Reactions, no more?
I don't know. It's interesting to me because I don't. A lot of people ask me this when I'm out in drag. They're like, "Should I call you Avoca or John?" Or they'll call me John, and they'll say, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
But to me, there's very little distinction between the two.
Yeah.
Avoca is 99% me, and then 1% sort of extra glitz. And some drag artists, I think it's important to make the distinction, do see a real separation between themselves and their drag character. I think most of those drag artists are people who more clearly bend the gender boundaries, so men who actually dress as women, whereas I see Avoca as more of an entity and as sort of as I don't know, a deity more than an actual man or a woman. Do you know? So for me, there's actually very little separation between John and Avoca. You can call me either or. And it's similarly with pronouns and things like that. I mean, some people are very particular about their pronouns.
Yeah.
It's important to respect that. But particularly when I'm in drag, because the whole point of my drag is to really blur all those lines and to disregard all the social standards we have around gender and to just take me as a person. So if you want to see, call me he, she, they, it, whatever. I mean, that all flies with me.
Yeah. Now, you're very stylishly dressed today. You came down probably on public transport, which I think is always a great one.
Yeah.
Would that be normally the way you would... usually, I hate the word normally, but would that usually be the way you would present in the street?
Well, yeah, this is a little bit more kind of performance-y, but generally speaking, I identify as gender non-conforming or non-binary. So the form you would have seen me when we first met at the Style Talk is a little bit closer to what I'd wear every day. Yeah. So I tried to mix it up, but I like to kind of keep try and keep masculine and feminine elements. So I still have my beard, I keep my chest hair, I keep my leg hair, so I love to kind of throw people off a little bit. And I really enjoy going on public transport and being out in public dress like this. Just sends people into
maybe
skin.
if you develop another character, you can be calling it Don Leg Hair.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. Yeah.
You know, the reason why I ask this, when I went to London in the mid-70s and I met a couple of my cousins and their friends, and they were gayer than Christmas. Yeah. And there was a guy called Gary, and Gary was really out there. He was 17 at the time.
Right.
And, the area we were living in was a Cypriot area, Turks on one end and Greeks at the other. And it was a Saturday afternoon, we were all a bit bored, and somebody said to Gary, "I bet you would not walk from one end of Green Lanes to the other," which was about a mile and a half. It was, and it was greengrocer shops and all those family stores on either side. Nothing, you say to Gary you wouldn't do it, well that was it, we bet him a fiver, and Gary got my cousin's dress on and whatever, and he walked from one end, and you should have seen the glaring reaction, particularly on the Turkish side.
Yeah, and in the mid-70s as well.
In the mid-70s as well. Oh yeah, people, we thought he was going to get hit, but he was courageous enough to do it, so that's why I always admire somebody who is prepared to say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Either love it or
hate it. In the community we call it visibility, and it's very important. So that's my commitment. I try to be as committed as possible to the idea of being as visible as I can be every day. To show people who are not in the queer community that this is normal, this is average, and B, to show other people who are in the queer community that they can dress like I do and go out in the street and hopefully be safe. Now it's interesting we're talking about the 70s and the idea of your friend being queer bashed in walking through London. That's still a reality today. So there are friends of mine, and thankfully they posted statuses about it just to raise awareness, but I really admire them for that, because I don't think I'd be able to do that, who've been quick bashed in Dublin. Who've been assaulted in the street for being too visible. And for me, it's not a question of if that's going to happen. I know at some point that will happen. I've thankfully never had a physical assault, but I've had a lot of verbal abuse. I've been spat at twice in the last 8 months. So there's definitely a resistance to the new, I call it the gender revolution, what's happening at the moment, and there's a lot of resistance to the idea of people, things being gender neutralized, of people rejecting ideas of binary gender stereotypes, of people using they pronouns or z pronouns, and there's an awful lot of resistance from the, I would say, conservative community, but we can't pinpoint it like that. I mean, it's people on both sides of the fence that have objections to how I live my life.
I mean, to a certain degree, you and I, we would live in what we would call this Dublin creative bubble.
Exactly, where this is safe.
Yeah, well, you're shocked when it happens to other people, because you don't think this is, you think, oh, well, we've outgrown that.
No.
But what's your experience? Because is it more likely to happen in the city, or is the country still trying to catch up in that regard, or is the country curious? Dare I say it?
What I would say is that it's far less likely to happen in the country because there are far fewer people like me who are visible in the country. I have the utmost respect for any drag artists who are performing outside of the major cities because you're really contending with that very strong conservatism. I think you're more likely to be met with resistance in Dublin because people are slightly more used to the idea.
Yeah.
What I find a lot is that the looks I get on the street are either of confusion, distaste, or it's either confusion or distaste or grand appreciation. Those are the three. But the confusion is most interesting to me. A lot of people can't make head nor tails of me. So I think that's why I've been safe. Like, I'll come at night from my gigs, I'll be in drag, and I've been safe so far. I think it's because people see me and they don't know what to make of me. I think if they don't know what to make of you, they don't know what to do with you. So they couldn't be certain if they came up and tried to provoke me what would happen, which I quite like the idea of. And as well in drag, I wear these massive 6-inch platforms. I'm quite a big person, so I'm quite imposing. But I know that other people aren't as lucky to be as maybe kind of hulking and as scary in their presentation. But it's interesting that you mentioned country culture, because my parents are culties, bona fide culties. They're God-fearing, spud-eating, gap-playing country people. You know, they're brilliant, but they have absolutely no conception of Beyonce gay straight. They have no conception of the sort of the big grey area that lies in between that. I think the same goes for a lot of conservative people or people from the country. When I realised, I studied English and human development at college, and for my final year thesis, I did my thesis on the lack of gender and sexuality education in primary school. So we're all taught the birds and the bees, if you're lucky enough to get that, and nothing else. And what I realised from that, I did a bit of research into Irish queer history, and I just kind of said to myself, what did homophobia look like in the 30s, 40s, 50s in Ireland? And when I discovered what was really disturbing is that it didn't exist because queer people didn't exist.
Exactly.
We were completely erased.
Well, no, I say this to people. I say this to people. There were no gay people in Ireland. There were just queers.
That's it. Yeah, and there's a distinction.
By the time the rest of the community caught up, we reclaimed the word.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's an interesting one because I find, in my experience, that if people don't feel threatened, they're usually accepting. And I give you an example of this. My mother came to visit me when I was living in Sydney, and I took her to what turned out to be, by accident, the third Mardi Gras. Now, if you ever get a chance to go, this is the place to go. Anyway, we were there, and you could still conveniently stand on the pavement and look at everything. And then she looked at me and she turned around and she said, that man is... there was a guy wearing chaps. He was a coloured guy. And there was a guy wearing chaps. And she said, that man's trousers are two different colours. And I said, have a look again.
Bless her.
And then she said, I know, she was in her 70s at this stage. And then I said, have a look again. She said, oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, his bum's sticking out. But what she found the most confusing was not the gay men and the men with the balloons up their tops and all of that, and the men with the the very tall girl with the moustache. She found none of that threatening at all. But what she couldn't understand was the gay Catholic group.
Oh, interesting. Right.
Yeah, because there was a group there, we're the gay Catholics, and she just couldn't understand that. She could understand all those other people. I presume she thought they were
putting those two words together did not compute. It's interesting.
Yeah. So but as I say, generally speaking, I find country people are like that. If they don't feel threatened, then we'll good luck to you. Whereas there's a certain segment in Dublin that's going to feel threatened, and the way they respond is with violence, which I think is very, very sad.
It is.
So tell us, Avoca, were there any influences when you choose to, this is where you were going to, as I say, have your stage presence, were there any influences that immediately said, oh, I like that, I want to take some of that?
Yeah, so I first was exposed to drag. Actually, I always say the first time I watched drag was on RuPaul's Drag Race. That's not true. My first exposure to drag was on RTE2 in the late 90s for Telly Bingo. And
surely.
Yeah. And it always perplexes me that growing up in such a conservative country where I suffered under that conservative sort of regime and was bullied quite badly for being queer, that from the late 90s we were being represented on television. On mainstream television. It just boggles me. And it's incredible. I mean, like, I see Shirley Temple Bar as sort of a queer Joan of Arc. You know, she really led that charge. But my first when I first conceptualised drag, it was from watching RuPaul's Drag Race. And when I watched RuPaul's Drag Race, this is incredible. But I didn't see myself in that style of drag. I said, this is what I want to do, but not exactly like that. And I, sort of by accident, when I started on the Irish theatre scene, I came across Keane O'Brien's drag character, Mangina Jones.
I was going to say that, yes.
So Mangina Jones was the original source.
I was going to say that when I saw you, and particularly when I see you today, there were two characters, and one was less a character. And one was obviously Mangina Jones, and I thought, yep, what a fabulous, keeping that alive. But the original one I saw, and it was the original influence for David Bowie, was Lindsay Kemp.
I love Lindsay Kemp.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Kate Bush fan,
Yeah.
and Lindsay Kemp had a huge influence on Kate Bush. And there's a gorgeous documentary about Kate Bush where Lindsay Kemp speaks about her, and just the way Lindsay Kemp talks about things, and pure art. He's just walking art. He passed away recently, didn't he?
Very recently, within the last 12 months. No, I mean,
Yes.
my other half was studying under Lindsay. My first wife was studying under Lindsay Kemp, and so that's where in the mid '70s, that's where I first came across it, and then I discovered that Bowie.
Did you see Flowers at the time?
Yes.
Did you see Flowers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Everybody had, as he'd say.
Yeah, no, because I was, as I say, by that stage I was very into the idea of Bowie, and particularly the Ziggy Stardust, and then how he moved on, and then. We were fortunate to be at the alternative Miss Ireland when Mangina, as we say, triumphed. And not only that, but we were with Mangina's family, parents as well.
Brilliant.
And I remember at the time, they didn't know whether to be slightly embarrassed or really proud, and I think they settled for being really proud.
I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
But so interesting you mentioned Lindsay Kemp, because my two main influences are Mangina Jones and Kate Bush, and by extension then Lindsay Kemp. That's spot on.
Well, next year we'll have to get you out at the Rose Festival in Clontarf, where they do Wuthering Heights.
Oh yeah.
There were 700 people there this year, and I filmed them all, and there were a lot of chaps there.
Yes, chaps and dresses. Yeah, one of my favourite things to see.
So as I say, you'd be a star next year. So if you're going to be there, let me know, and I will be out there with the video camera, because it's a great event.
Brilliant.
Anyway, you see, I would have. This is why I asked you at the very beginning, Avoca Reaction. I remember when we loved Ziggy Stardust for a couple of years, and I always, what I really love, showing my, if you like, my closet here, I love that whole Andy Warhol scene, that the factory, and Candy Darling and whatever. And I would say to people, when I first
parties and all that,
when I first heard Transformer by Lou Reed, this was to me, if I only could take one album to that desert island, it would be Transformer. It's 40 odd years, nearly 50 years since it came out, and I can still put it on. Amazing. And it is still fresh. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
But that's why I was asking you whether you see Avoca as a character now. Can you see yourself creating more characters in different styles and within the genre?
Yeah, and I love the freedom of being able to do that, and the sort of the power of reinvention. So I'm starting out as Avoca Reaction, but I know that I have the option to change all that.
Absolutely,
and what's really beautiful about it is that I understand how sort of arbitrary that is. So identity, we put so much emphasis on identity, but ultimately identity is projected. We completely we fabricate our identity. So why can't that be fluid? Do you know?
Absolutely.
So absolutely, yeah. I can see little different facets of Avoca sort of opening up, and I'm starting to write music now. I'm writing music for Big Girls Blouse for Avoca, but then I'm also writing more personal music that I don't think is coming from Avoca. It's actually coming from more of a personal place. So I think I will be creating another character rather soon.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about one of the main reasons, the bums on seats reason why we invited you in here today. Big Girls Blouse. Yeah. It's next Friday and Saturday down there in Smock Alley as part of the Seen and Heard festival. Tell us about the production.
Big Girls Blouse is a cross between a 70s rock gig, so Kate Bush tour life, Ziggy Stardust sort of vibe, and a TED Talk about gender. And my initial impetus for it was to try and find a way of quite succinctly explaining where I'm coming from in terms of my gender identity, my sexuality, and my personal identity, so I don't have to keep explaining it to every single person I meet, because that is exhausting. And every stranger I meet, and a lot of my friends still have a lot of questions about my identity, and as much as I like to talk about it, I also like to talk about real life and real things.
Indeed.
So it's one way, I suppose, of sort of putting that all out there as a big volume of information for people I love, for people I don't know, and my main impetus is just sort of try and condense all of this this barrage of information that we're all receiving about the new way that we can view gender, and trying to break it down in as plain speech as possible so that a non-queer audience can understand. So I'm really writing it from the perspective of trying to explain this in a way that'll calm down the very kind of hot-headed sort of conservative side, who I don't think will come see the show anyway. But I want to, if the liberals who do come and see me will be able to pass that info on, maybe to their more conservative friends.
You've also got, dare I say it, a mutual acquaintance, the devastatingly handsome and the incredibly talented James Walmsley. What's James's role? He's for people who have short memories. James was formerly the singer and lead guitarist with Dead Cat Bounce, and he's now the lead guitarist with the Stasi.
Yes.
So what's James? What will he be contributing to the picnic?
Well, as you know, James is the second coming of Dave Gilmore.
Yeah.
So James will be. He is. We are co-writing the songs. I've written the lyrics and I've come up with sort of the structure of the songs. He's now building tracks and he'll be playing along live with me. James has played along with me at almost every gig I've done in some capacity or another. So he's either played live or I've sang along to one of his tracks. And James and I are quite different as people, but for some reason we just mesh really well. James has got such... I'm quite a hyperactive person. James is just so calm.
He's more laid back than... If he was any more laid back, he'd fall over.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be horizontal.
Yeah.
But he's just the most... he's incredibly hardworking, talented, compassionate, and he's a real ally. Yeah. As laid back as he is, he'll drop these little pearls of wisdom to me, just give me these little words of encouragement. He's a wonderful friend and a great collaborator. Yeah, I'm very excited.
The other side of the coin, for those who, because there's the boys' school in Smock Alley, it's a limited number of seats, and you've got to get in there quickly. You also play around town on weekends as well, and we mean professionally.
Yes, I do.
Tell us about that.
Well, I've just the drag thing has sort of taken off a little bit now, which is very exciting. So most recently, I've set up my own cabaret show, which is called Avoca's Big Dirty Queer Cabaret. It's quite a name. Yeah. Quite a mouthful. We've had 2 installments so far. So the first one was called King of Kings, and it was celebrating positive masculinity, so celebrating the positive aspects of the dads and lads who enrich our lives. The second installment was 2 weeks ago, and that was themed around activism. It's called Fight the Good Fight. Our third one will be March 15th, and it is themed around boss women on top. So we always have a host of new queer talent, drag kings, gender non-conforming artists, trans artists, as well as some of the top Irish cabaret talents, so stand-up comedy. We've had the Stasi. It's a really exciting time for the Irish queer scene, because there's so many of these not new shows, there's some existing queer cabarets popping up. But talking about Spice Black, Glitterhole, really exciting stuff going on. I'm glad to be able to join that sort of queer alternative set.
Just listening to that, ideal material for broadband TV. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, this requires its own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You do this in 15-minute segments. I think you'd be an international star.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just to recapitulate, it's next Friday the 22nd, next Saturday the 23rd at 9:15 in Smock Alley.
Come to the late show, grab a drink.
Well, I'm hoping to go on Saturday night. I can't go Friday, but I'm certainly hoping to go on Saturday night. So all we can say, in the best of traditions, break a leg.
Thank you very much, Mick, and thank you for having me on.
It has been a pleasure to talk to Avoca Reaction. Seen and heard, it's going on for the next couple of weeks. Next week we will have another act that's on at the Smock Alley Theatre as well. So until then, you take care.
My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.